Morning, everyone. Welcome back to the channel, Jesse's Occupational Awareness Show. I'm your host, Jesse. Happy Labor Day weekend, everyone. Hope you all are doing great, enjoying maybe a little bit of time off. My staycation here at the house has been absolutely awesome. Everything that I needed. Just been relaxing, chilling, getting stuff done around the house, and letting some time pass. Woke up this morning. It's probably kind of hard to see. There's a nice little busted blood vessel to my eye. Doesn't hurt. It's not affecting my vision at all. I just thought it was really weird. So, other than that, man, things are great. And the topic of today's video comes from a question that I got asked about 3 weeks ago. I was on the boat. We were taking lunch break. Boats were moored up, which means tied to a dock, at Yorktown, and we were having lunch. And I was down below in the forward cabin. I was using a little microwave. It's a 45-foot boat. It's got some space in it. And I was warming up my lunch, and I don't know what the conversation was upstairs, but one of my fellow instructors yells out, "Hey, Carter, hey, what's the most bizarre thing you saw in the prison?" And it was kind of like Family Feud, where you don't get any time to answer. You got to slap the buzzer and then answer it within seconds. I just yelled out, "Transgender inmate." Didn't think anything about it. Cool. Microwave was still going. Microwave beeped, took my food out, climbed up the little steps, and there were 4 other individuals in the boat cabin, and it was just absolute stone silence. I looked at the instructor that asked, and he's just staring at me. I was like, "What?" They're there. And he goes, "You worked at all male facility, though. There's nothing but dudes there." I said, Yeah, I know." Went outside the boat, shut the hatch, didn't say anything. Nothing else was said about it. And I got to thinking, would that make an interesting topic to talk about? It can be a sensitive subject. I'm not going to get into any of the debates or anything about it, legalities. Hey, man, people make their own choices. Whatever an individual wants to do, hey, it's a free country. Okay, prison, one of those different kinds of things, but there are some liberties that are afforded while in prison. So I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to talk about some of my dealings and interactions with some of the transgender inmates around Styles. One of the formal classes that we had in the academy was offender identification. They had their classification from the classification office, and they would get issued state-issued ID cards. Very similar to the driver's licenses that we get, military IDs, some kind of identification from your employment, okay, something of that nature. It had their picture, it had their name, didn't have their age because the card didn't get updated very often, if ever in some cases. It had their state ID number, their race, and their gender, male, female. Styles, every one of them said M for male. Races, you had W for white, B for black, H for Hispanic. I think that was about it. I don't remember what Asian classification was, but it didn't break it down by all the different countries. It was just a big group classification. All right. The inmates were supposed to carry these cards with them at all times. The only time they didn't have to have it physically on their body was when they were inside their cell. But if they came out their cell, even if they were just hanging out in the day room for general population purposes, or wherever they were going to get transported to in segregation, they were supposed to have that ID card on them. Some of them had a little clip, and they'd clip it to their shirt. Others, they'd keep it in a little pocket, somewhere on them. Anytime you stopped to ID an offender, we were taught in the academy, hey, show me your ID. They were supposed to stop what they were doing, present that ID card. We look at it, match the face, match the picture, match them up, and that's how we could identify the offender. Now, that's how it goes on paper. Real life, sometimes you almost had to fight dudes to get them to show their ID card. They acted like they just got stopped by the police, which they did, and they were about to get some kind of a traffic citation. Okay. A lot of times that wasn't the case. A lot of times you just wanted to ID an offender just because you couldn't see his ID card. Or trying to come up with a charge because you knew the guy wasn't going to show it. You tell him, show me your ID. He refuses, catches a charge, failure to ID. All right, it was a petty charge, but it was a charge that was there. And a lot of officers would use that thing and write guys up for it. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Okay. In segregation, I knew of at least 3 individuals that had gone through the transgendering process. All right. Everything up until, I think it's called gender reassignment. Yeah, GRS, gender reassignment surgery. They hadn't had that done. Now, I don't know about today's standards. Could be different now. I don't know. It wasn't offered back then. But as far as altering their bodies, dude, it was just different. All right. Part of that class that we had from the academy did involve transgender inmates. And they talked about how they would have an ID card. It would have a male picture on it. You're going to be standing right in front of a woman. And they're going to hand you an ID card, and it's going to have a male face on it with a male name on it. And they're going to call themselves a different name. They're not supposed to, but they will. Okay, that's part of the failure to ID. But they'll go by whatever name they've given themselves. And you'll look at the card, you'll look at them, and you're going, these don't match up. How that's allowed, I really don't know. The PC dorm, protective custody unit, was full of those individuals. They would have everything from long hair to makeup, eyebrows trimmed and done, clothes altered, which was a violation, all right, all the way down to breasts. I don't know why I just did that. All the way down to breast, okay? Chest has been altered, and physical breasts were on this human being. How that took place, I don't know. Never got the chance to find out. Didn't really care at the time. Still don't. But it intrigues me to the point of how that took place. There was no explanation for it. Somehow, over the years, these individuals had manipulated and altered themselves to become the individual that they were. I'm sure they did it for all different kinds of reasons. I'm not going to get into it. What a person does is what a person does. It's just really odd in an all-male facility that there are individuals basically living the best that they can in their confinements as females. All right. There were quite a bit of them. Anytime the protective custody dorm individuals had any kind of a movement, radio broadcast was put out, inmates were supposed to get put away. The ones that were out on the walkways that couldn't get put inside areas had to turn, kneel down, face the opposite direction. And here they come. And man, these dudes are just prancing their way through, catcalling. You'd hear beating, banging, and hollering from the buildings, guys that could see outside the windows. The ones that were out on the tiers, not on the tiers, the ones that were out on the highway facing the fence, they knew not to say or do anything. But the ones in the buildings, it was free game. And they would blow kisses and cat calls and flash symbols. There wasn't anything you could do about it. You could try to write them up, but it wasn't going to go anywhere. It was just one of those things. There wasn't any kind of enforcement arm for it. As long as they were in line walking, they're just doing their thing. Well, 3 of the particular individuals that come to my mind from segregation, I don't remember any of their names. One of them was an older guy, black guy. Another one was Hispanic. Third one was white. All right. The older black guy, he was in C pod, Charlie pod. Charlie pod wasn't a bad pod to work. I've already talked about it previously. I didn't have any trouble in that pod, except for the one time with the 2 psych cases, but that was a whole different kind of a story. Check that one out in the archives. It's pretty good. This individual, I never had problems out of this guy. When you went to talk to him through the cell, the first time I heard his voice, I kind of jumped because I thought it was at the wrong cell. I remember seeing the male name, tap on the door, hey, you want shower, you want rec? I'm not even trying to imitate the voice, but the voice that replied back to me was a female voice. No rec, I'll take shower today. Okay. And I went on about what I was doing. This was probably This is the first time I interacted with the individual. I was working with Officer Lavalier. Charlie Pod was one of the ones you didn't have to have two officers to move the inmates around. It was good if you could, so the officers could break up and we could move offenders um, singly. So if you had the extra officer to work, it could make the day quicker. And that was this situation right there. He was doing his thing, I was making my rounds. Made my way back around, and I go to take the guy out for wreck and shower. Same procedure. Bang on the door, get the guy's attention, cool. Take the bean tool, pop the slot pops open, uniform comes out. Pat the uniform down, throw the uniform on over my shoulder. They were only supposed to get moved in their shorts and their shower slides, or shoes if they had them. A lot of them just had the state issue shower slides. All right, that comes out, squats down, hands come out, put the hand restraints on, push the button, yelled out whatever cell it was, door pops, rolled the door, and I'm looking at a dude standing behind me. He's got his back to me, and I see hair pulled back into a ponytail. Okay, shorts, a white t-shirt. Inmate steps back to me, and me not even thinking, hand comes up, put my hand on the arm, and as I turn the individual around, I'm looking at a generally looking female face. Eyebrows are done up, makeup on the eyes, lipstick on, rouge on the face, all right? And I looked at the shirt, and as I started to say, hey, that shirt's not, you see the formal breasts on it. I'm going, huh? And as I'm standing there looking at the guy knew I hadn't moved him around yet. He had been in there God knows how long. And the female voice goes, Mr. Carter, I know the shirt's not authorized. Please let me wear it. And it's just like, all right, man, let's go. So I walked the dude down the tier, put him in the day room, went on about my business, puts his uniform on, goes from there. But as I'm walking by, I just kind of glance over every now and again. And I thought back to the academy when they told us about that, and I said, I'll be damned. Sergeant Norman wasn't lying. I didn't think much of it when I was in the academy, but seeing that in the all-mill facility, it was just surprising. Okay, there's no war story involved in this. It's just like the ingenuity, the craftivity to be able to do that. How it was able to get done, I don't know. But it was. I don't know if there was some kind of special provisions and classification. I never talked to a supervisor about it. Raymond, Jones, they never batted any kind of an eye anytime individuals in the day room come out. Every time I worked Charlie Pod, I moved that guy to the day room, took him to the shower, back to the cell, fed food. Never had problems with the dude. The only problems that I would have, I guess it could be from him. The trustees like to stop and stand and bullshit at his cell for way longer than they were supposed to. Trustees were supposed to just come in, sweep the floors, keep the place generally clean, and not interact with inmates. They pretty much did everything and a lot of the last. All right. You catch these guys hanging out at cells. They traffic and trade shit with them. They were slick about it. They were smart. I give them their props. I give them their kudos. We couldn't use them to help us feed the trays. They were pretty much worthless in there. They just sweep up trash on the floor and a lot of times just generally cause problems. Especially old Washington. I'll do a whole nother video on that dude. But anytime you're making rounds, you usually see the guy hanging out at one of the cells. And you'd have to tell him, hey, need to go on about your business, man. If they didn't, right up. Usually I'd let it go once, and if they did it again, I'd throw them out of my pod. They'd always go complain to the supervisor, like, hey, LT, you put me in charge of this place. He's causing a disturbance. I don't want him in there causing disturbance. I understand that, Carter, but he's supposed to be in there working. That's up to you to manage. I didn't particularly like that, but there wasn't a whole lot I could do about it. Okay. So that could cause problems right there. Traffic and trading would just be rampant because of those guys. But I've already done the video on that. The other two individuals, the Hispanic one, never came out of the cell. Okay, he was in Bravo Pod. There was an individual, he was either in cell 3 or 4, which was on the first tier. Second tier, it would have been cell 8 or 9, somewhere in the middle. No, 9 or 10, somewhere in the middle. 8 would have been the first door, 9, 10. So 9, 10, or 11. They were both kind of in the middle over each other. The guy's last name was Shower. Okay? And they talked to each other all day long. And you just hear this female voice holler out. I'm not going to imitate it. You'd hear this female voice holler out, Shower. And the first couple of times I worked Bravo Pod, I thought it was an inmate calling out that they wanted their shower. Inmates would holler out, hey, when am I going to rec? Hey, what's up with rec, man? Shit like that. So I thought this inmate was just wanting their shower all the time. And as I'm making the rounds, about the first couple of times I heard it, I went over and banged on the dude's door. I was like, hey, what is it with you and a shower? You've already had your shower today. Mr. Carter, I'm not asking for a shower. I'm talking to Shower. Like, you're talking to the shower? I'm talking to my boy upstairs. Oh. Guy's name is Shower. I didn't even know. And even though I had moved the guy around, I'd seen his name on the board sheet, I didn't even realize. But they would talk to each other and have long, drawn-out conversations. B-Pod was generally pretty quiet, especially after lunch got served and the guys had a lot of the rec movement and their showers moved around. Things would kind of quiet down a little bit in the easier to manage pods. D, E, F pods? No, not at all. And they talked to each other. I'm standing there taking water, and it sounded like two chicks just talking to each other. I don't mean that to offend anybody. It's just the term I'm using. I don't mean it derogatory at nobody. But it sounded like two female voices conversing back and forth with each other. Just as if it was, you were in the medical unit. Just as if you were in medical and the nurses were talking to each other. Sorry, I had a brain freeze there. Just like listening to any couple of ladies, couple of females, couple of women talking to each other. But it was an all-male facility. It was all-male prisoners. The other one, I don't remember a whole lot about this individual. I know that he got beat up. He got taken out by one of the utility bosses, the white guy. I don't even remember which pod that he was in, but I remember he had the same kind of look. Long hair, was pulled back into a ponytail, kind of came down to his back. I remember I was in the hallway coming back from the chow hall. I was returning the slop bucket, and I was going back to the pod I was working in, and he was being escorted by two of the officers. And again, just glance at the inmate. It looked like a female was walking. Breasts, everything. Get back in the pod, doing my thing. Radio call goes out. Fight in progress right outside the hospital area. For whatever reason, whoever was outside that was supposed to kneel, face the fence, they got up. I don't know the whole details to it because I was back in my pod working. They got up, basically overpowered the two COs that had the inmate and just started beating this guy down. Heard about it in turnout the next day, the outcome of it. There was a couple of trustees that were out there. They either had some kind of beef with the guy or the guy had some kind of debt, something. But he deserved a beat down, according to them, not me. All right, inmate justice. And he ended up getting transferred to the hospital unit. I think it's the Jester 4 up in Galveston. Yeah, wasn't there, didn't see it, just heard about it. That's my stories on that, folks. I hope y'all have been entertained by it. I hope it was a little bit insightful. Guys that are getting ready, and gals, both. Everyone who's getting ready to go to the academy, and those of you that are in the academy, if they don't teach that as part of offender identification, you're going to experience it at some point. You're going to be looking at a male picture on an ID card, and you're going to have a female-looking individual standing right in front of you. Good luck. It's an interesting experience. Folks, happy Labor Day to you guys. Everyone take care. Stay safe. I'll see everyone in the next video.